the PFA.
Yes, we are fortunate to have him to give us the welcome remarks for today's Ikapihan. We are happy to have our dear and dynamic chairman of the Philippine Franchise Association. He is also the CEO and founder of the Food Asia Group with interests in franchising and restaurant operations, as well as manufacturing, logistics, retail, real estate, and e-commerce. Presently, Food Asia has a store network of over 400 multi-brand stores. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us all welcome Mr. Richard Sands. Good afternoon, Rich.
Yes, Rich, you're okay now.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. So good afternoon, Doc Carl. Good afternoon, She. And good afternoon to all our guests, resource speakers, and panelists. You know, She, I share your sentiments because I also did my rounds for 2 weeks, and I saw what's happening in the malls. So yes, I think we have a lot to learn and from the new normal, what's happening. So normally, Tita Bing and I alternate on giving the welcome remarks. And today, I requested if I can give the welcome remarks to personally express my sincerest gratefulness and thanks to our resource speaker, the renowned architect Felino or Tito June Palafox, whom I really admire very much for all his great works on design, master planning, and urban planning throughout the whole Philippines. And the reason that I requested is because the presence of our three panelists who happens to be my good friends. First of all, Eric Chino D, who we all know is the COO of Foodie Global Concepts, which owns and operates a lot of my favorite restaurants. Thank you, Chino. And I don't want to go ahead of the official introductions of our panelists. So teaser muna. Teaser muna. Then next is my good friend and kuya, Richie Kuna of our Gelato Trio Mix and Kurimi Milk Tea. Richie, thank you so much. Ang ganda ng background mo. And last but not the least, another good friend and my partner a few years back when we chaired Franchise Asia, the man who grew Shakey's to what it is now, Vic Gregorio, the CEO of Shakey's. Vic, partner, thank you so much. So to formally start, on behalf of the PFA Board of Trustees and Officers, I would like to welcome everyone to the 8th Ikapihan of the PFA. Imagine 8 kapihan na. And I also wish you good health and safety in this time of pandemic. Furthermore, I hope that you are managing to keep your businesses afloat despite the crisis. Indeed, the COVID-19 crisis has disrupted the way we do business and even in the way we live. Stories of business difficulties and even failures and lives overturned have become all too familiar. But in the midst of all these horror stories, we also have heard stories of resilience and triumph. And a crew of a cruise ship who now has a growing business selling barbecue. Retrenched flight attendant turned into seller of fresh vegetables and fruits. Then we also have an event management company that transformed their office into a fresh produce store, and the list goes on and on. In other words, in the midst of gloom, there are also a lot of opportunities. In fact, we have been saying this from the moment that we started this e-Kapihan Forum, which we organized to help franchisors, franchisees, and entrepreneurs navigate the COVID-19 crisis and recover from its adverse effects. Yes, the world may have changed, but it's still a world full of opportunities. With the changes in the world, the priorities of our customers have also changed. So we got to know about the new customers in the previous Ikapihans. This afternoon, we will go a step higher and learn and improve customer experience in the new normal. So that's why we are very, again, privileged to have architect Palafox to give us a peek into the preferred customer experience in this new world. This will be the first in the series where we will get insights on how to manage customer experience in the food, retail, and service sector. And since the topic today is about the food sector, this is the reason why we have our food experts of PFA, such as my three friends, which I mentioned, who represent different business models and different business setups. So in summary, we will have a very exciting afternoon ahead of full insights and helpful information. And on this note, uh, let us all remember that there's still a lot of opportunities out there for those who are ready to adapt and adjust to the new world. And in closing, I would like to share what I love. I read this quote a few months ago. So not all storms come to disrupt your lives. Some come to clear your path. So it's very inspiring, and I wish that we all learn for this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Right. Some storms are here to clear our path. Beautiful, beautiful indeed. What a way to end an opening remarks, partner, no? And acknowledgement also. Sabi ko kanina, nandito ang Maxes, nandito ang McDonald's, nandito rin ang Goldilocks. Imagine the learning together activity we have today. And if I miss anyone from the board, partner, maybe you can just mention them, because we have also with us Mr. Jeff Yulo of Goldilocks. All right. And okay, partner, is anything you want to say before we proceed to the proper discussion of the redesigning of the food and dining experience?
Yes, it's really full force, partner, from the PFA Board of Trustees since the beginning. We started this in March 25, and we're now on our 8th ikapihan na. And I think, partner, let's move on to our resource speaker because everyone is excited to hear from him. Can I introduce na?
We find first an architect, partner. An architect is a professional skilled in creating artful, inspirational structures that are eventually reduced to 4 concrete walls. Yeah, imagine that. And therefore, architects, gusto kong banggitin to because this will inspire us. Ano? Architects design for the present with an awareness of the past for a future which essentially is unknown. And every situation requires a new architecture. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen well. We're excited to have him, one of the world's best architects. Partner, take it away. Let's introduce our...
Yes, partner. And also he has a write-up, he has an article in Manila Times today, which I know you've read also. Our resource speaker has 48 years of experience in architecture and 46 years in planning. He was educated in Christ the King Seminary, University of Santo Tomas, and has traveled to and observed more than 1,000 cities in 79 countries and territories. Our speaker has founded, leads, and manages Palafox Associates and Palafox Architecture Group Incorporated, which have already completed more than 1,600 projects in 40 countries. Among his many awards, Forbes Asia magazine cited him as one of their 48 heroes of philanthropy in Asia. In 2017, he was awarded by the JCI Senate as one of the 3 top outstanding Filipinos. He was recognized by the Professional Regulatory Commission as the 2019 Most Outstanding Professional of the Year in the field of environmental planning. He led Palafox Associates to be the first Filipino architectural firm cited in the world's top 500 architectural firms of the World Architecture magazine. In 2006, Palafox held the distinction of being the only Southeast Asian firm in the top 100. Ladies and gentlemen, let us hear it from architect Felino Palafox. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the generous introduction, Ms. Sherry Tita. And thank you for the organizers of this webinar PFA, the leaders, founders, and trustees of PFA, and for the opportunity to share. I was asked to talk before we go to more micro discussion of the food, uh, the food and restaurants experience. We start from the city. We shape our city. So we start implementing the best practices in the world and reimagining our cities, our places of work, our communities, and so on. So we start maybe with, I call it tactical urbanism. We can refix our cities. We start with transportation. There are 20 kinds of transportation, and the first two kinds of transportations are walking and cycling. And it's also good for social distancing. It's also good for this. We have to have balance between place of work and place of residence. Metro Manila today is how not to do it because workers, employees of Makati CBD, Port Bonifacio, hours a day away from their families. So they're like OFWs in Metro Manila. So with this working from home, now they are with their families. So when we reshape our cities, we should have a 20-minute rule. 20 minutes walking to your destination, 20 minutes by bicycle, 20 minutes by public transit. And this should now be the guideline. Cities to be more walkable, more bikeable, and public transit. And look at our infrastructure has always been car-centric, devoted for the automobile. And only 2% of us Filipinos own cars. The 98% use public transit or walk to work. So these are the realities we have to embrace now. And we seem to be known as, we have the habit of not implementing best practices in the world. Now is this crisis we create as the opportunities. And then when now we go to homes, offices, and shopping. For shopping and retail, I think although we've been architects, designers also, huge shopping malls, the trend will be now stand alone along the main roads, main streets, wide sidewalk, pedestrian streets, and so on. So this will be the trend. And for residential, we'll have disinfection room, or mud room. Once you enter your house, you have to, all the things, clothes, shoes, you leave it behind for this, direct to the washing machine. And homes will have a isolation room just in case somebody gets sick. And even homes, there should be kitchen gardens. So you have your food close by and so on. And I think the trend will be away from super regional centers, regional shopping centers. It will be more on town centers, community centers, neighborhood centers, and the main street, back to the main street. And in the spaces within the within the restaurants, office, and so on, with the social distancing, a lot have to be considered. Like for instance, again, the 6 feet or 2 meters apart, it should be everywhere be considered. And there will be more outdoor al fresco dining because recirculated air, it can circulate the infection also. And in fact, many building material suppliers now elsewhere in the world, they are designing carpets with circles, 6-foot circles, 2-meter circles. So it indicates the social distancing required. So here, temporarily, we are doing markers on the floor. So this is our proposal for Pasig River, for instance. Uh, Walkable promenades on the riverfronts and pedestrian bicycle bridges. Like before this pandemic, even employees of Makati coming from Mandaluyong or Fort Bonifacio coming from Pasig, it would take 2 hours to get to Makati. If you walk, maybe it's only 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Then maybe EDSA, we can make it more walkable, more bikeable, more landscaping. EDSA has 500,000 vehicles a day. And I've been saying that to recover the oxygen out of carbon monoxide per car, we need at least 10 trees. So we need 5 million trees along EDSA to balance the environment and so on. And a lot of opportunities now. So it's walkable, bikeable, more linear parks, more parks and development. Open spaces and parks are the lungs of the city. What had been happening is open spaces and parks are being converted into high-rise buildings. And that's why our immunization have been affected so much. We don't have parks and open spaces to exercise and social interaction and the lungs of the city. So every city is replanning elsewhere in the world and here, we always propose that road cross sections should be 1/3 for landscaping and trees, 1/3 for people, pedestrians and bicycles, and 1/3 for the moving traffic vehicles. So our roads and streets in the Philippines are how not to do it. We just finished this urban master plan for Metro Davao. Waterfronts are waterfronts. Here in our country, we have the 3rd longest coastline in the world. We treat waterfronts as back of the house basurahan. Elsewhere in the world, like in Dubai, they even had to create artificial islands to have more waterfronts. And these are the best practices in the world that we're trying our best to implement it in our cities. So alfresco dining would be more popular than indoor dining. So these are, maybe the slides are slower than my thinking. We designed this in Monterrey, Pinnacles and pedestrian streets with the restaurants facing the pedestrian. Many of you have been abroad. Las Ramblas in Spain, the Turkish promenade in Los Angeles, and so on. This is our proposal for the Iloilo Business Park with pedestrian streets. The former runway, the Iloilo Airport, made as pedestrian street. And Mega World is developing this. And back to the mixed-use development. In the Clark Freeport Zone, we have, the streets are walkable, bikeable with public transit. Again, more open spaces. And when you have more eyes on the street, there's less criminality. Criminals are not scared of walls. They can throw a grenade, no witnesses. Criminals are scared when there are more eyes in the street. And these are some preventing overcrowding. I mentioned a while ago, the air conditioners, and that go directly to the diners. Otherwise, anyone infected will spread all throughout the room. And there should be more natural light and ventilation and spacing and so on. No overcrowding. And diners indoors should not stay too long. You limit the time, but outdoors, al fresco. So this is the infection you get from the air conditioning, from one table to the other. So air conditioning should not hit directly the diners, and avoid recirculating of air conditioning, and maintain humidity at minimum 40%. And again, all al fresco dining is preferred. And again, physical barriers are acrylic and face masks and seals are required. So again, here you can see the air conditioning here doesn't hit any diner. It's in between the tables. And you have operable windows as well. And the type of materials that are easy to clean, it doesn't, germs and bacteria doesn't easy to clean them out. And so we can avoid all this, what we're currently doing. So this, it's not really the word new normal is overused now. I think we're going into a new world order. The former normal will never come back. We had an international webinar in 6 continents, and we had architects, builders, developers, infectious disease experts. And in that conversation, it was mentioned that we may have, because the COVID-19 is mutating very fast, we might have a COVID-19, COVID-20, 21, 22, or the rest of our lives. This one, I wrote it in my term paper at UP. Development is not worthy of a name unless spread evenly like butter and a piece of bread. In fact, the pandemic showed us the very wide inequalities. You have people, maybe even including me, in the villages with 1 person per 100 square meters or more. In our less fortunate informal settlers, 2 square meters per person. And this minimum now should be at least, I think, 5 to 6 square meters per person. So even our building codes will change, lower the density. Like our office would accommodate 100 persons. Now we redesigned it, it would accommodate only 28 persons. So there'll be a lot of adjustments. And you can see also in this picture, walking is carried, ferry boats, more eyes on the public realm. And I think I've given that message. And one of my professors in Harvard used to tell us, this century will be a re-century. Reimagine, re-engineer, redesign, re-architecture, redevelop, renew, reuse, recycle. And hopefully we'll have urban renaissance. And we'd like to see our master plan environment-friendly buildings, communities and cities that will be smarter, more resilient, safer, more walkable, more bikeable, better lighted, with mixed income communities and cross-generational, with integrating together places to live, work, shop, dine, learn, and worship, with some healthcare center and wellness centers, and with some 24-hour cycle activity centers. And I think we'll be really this. We should have enterprise looking at the transformation into the new world order. Most of the focus now is the vaccine. Most of the focus now how to address this crisis. Not many enterprises are planning well into the new world order post-pandemic. Future cities post-pandemic, which probably be the new world order. And I think I've consumed my 10 minutes. Thank you very much indeed. So for God, country, and planet Earth, we all do that.
Thank you very much, Architect June Palafox. It's always wonderful listening to you. You know, whether what you showed us is a vision.
May I quote this from Daniel Burnham?
Go ahead, please.
Manila in 1905, Baguio in Chicago in 1909. Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir man's blood. Make big plans, aim high and hope and work, remembering that a noble logical diagram, once recorded, will never die. But long after we're gone, will be a living thing asserting itself with ever-growing insistence. Remember that our sons and daughters are going to do things that would stagger us. Let your watchword be order and beacon beauty. He wrote this while he was planning the city of Manila in 1905. So it's always very inspiring, quotable. And
Wow.
We all like to live in environment friendly. Well, we implemented this guideline.
A picture of the print screen. If you're
so smarter cities, and this is our team. Now we have to lower the density of our office. We have offices in Makati, Cebu, and Davao. Thank you very much indeed.
All right. Thank you very much, Architect June Palafox. It's always
Thank you
wonderful.
so much, Architect.
Yeah. As I was saying, partner, earlier, whether what he talked about is a vision, a forecast, or a wishful thinking, I think what he referred to as the new world order is what it's an aspiration now for all of us. We want to see that happening. So very much connected to what Rich earlier mentioned about the storm that does not destroy, but will pave the way and will cleanse the pathway. Partner.
And yes, and a very beautiful framework given to us by Architect Palafox, saying that development is not worthy the name unless it is spread over like a butter on a piece of bread, which really means that development should really be inclusive.
Correct.
And Doc Carl, I also, top takeaway is that we should not be waiting for the vaccine and waiting for us to go back to the old, ways that we were used to, but really plan ahead post-pandemic, whether with the vaccine or not. But it's really the enterprise should be resilient enough, as we've been, talking for the past weeks, di ba?
Correct.
Be resilient enough to plan ahead and adapt to the new world order. So I think our panelists are also very excited to share their insights. Partner, please go ahead.
Last Saturday, partner, in my show, I had presidential advisor Joey Concepcion, and when I asked him for his final shot, all he did was to say that expect the worst and prepare to coexist with this virus, but we have to move our business, our families, and this country forward. That's also wonderful, right? Very much connected. And partner, let's have the reactors to present to us 3 different perspectives. One of them will be talking about the priority of safety. The other one will talk about the 3 brand story. And the third will talk about the skill set, competencies, among other, related to the redesigning of the food and the dining experience. Go ahead, partner. Let's introduce our first reactor.
Yes, I'm very excited because our panelists this afternoon, as well as our resource speaker, napakahirap kumuha ng schedule sa kanila, partner? And as we look forward to the looking for the transformation to the new world order and focusing on safety, our first panelist is the COO of one of Manila's top food and beverage group, Foodie Global Concepts, which holds the brands Mesa Filipino Modern, The Food Hall, Pound, Flattery, Sunny's Cafe, Bench Cafe, and Liao Liao. They also have 5 Michelin-rated restaurants under their belt, namely Tim Ho Wan, fooded by David Oldani, Chuta, Comes Roast, and Hawker Chan, which is currently the world's most reasonable Michelin-starred establishment in the world from Singapore. Recently, they launched Food District Signatures on the 5th, a food hall that houses the perfect mix of iconic brands and food trendsetters. Our panelist is aggressively expanding and bringing in the hottest and most accessible brands to the Philippine shores in order to let the Filipinos have a taste of the best restaurants around the world. Friends, without further ado, let's hear it from Mr.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And thank you very much to the PFA for inviting. It's an honor to be here in your ikapihan. So I learned something. I just wanted to repeat what Architect said, that the disparity of the average of 2 square meters per person here, and there's a gap between 1 per 100 square meters. So there's a very big gap there, and I learned that today. So more than the physical redesigning, what I would like to discuss is more on how we redesigned our mindset in order for us to be able to redesign our path and directions moving forward, and which led us to why we wanted to focus on safety. So come March 16, when the lockdown started happening, we were one of the first few to really close down stores. We felt that it was necessary to focus on the health of our staff and also the safety of our staff. But more importantly, what we had to do was to change our mindset. We had to change our mindset and accept that this will be the new norm. It took time, right? Because we were expecting like, are we going back to that old days, or should we just accept it and move on? So at first we had to redesign our mindset and understand that this is now the new order. We're not going back to before. We're going from here on forward. We have to know how to live with it, and we have to know how to understand the new scenarios. So because of that, we felt that we had to start planning and what we wanted to do for our company as far as the directions are concerned. So we had to redesign our direction, and we felt that consumer confidence is what we needed to get back. I personally had the experience wherein I went to a mall, had to decide where I wanted to eat. I had to look for a place where it had the least amount of people. I also ended up standing up in the corner of the mall eating my hamburger just because I wanted to stay away from crowds. It took a little bit of time for me to get myself less anxious. So again, now is actually our jobs to get that anxiety level low enough, or that fear level low enough, that your urge to eat outside and dine again be greater than that, right? So more than ever, as far as Foodie Global Concepts is concerned, our brands have been promoting their values, and we will stick to those core principles. As our pivot, we wanted to maintain our core principles, but still be able to be agile enough and flexible to roll with the punches. I think what we realize here is that the world is rolling with us, right? Everyone is kind of adapting, everyone is learning. So when we had to decide, we said, I think safety should be our priority. And we were the first ones to close the restaurants, but we were one of the later ones to reopen. Now, the reason being is that we had to redesign the entire operational process of it. We started opening during ECQ, which allowed us to do, I think, deliveries only. With that, we wanted to practice. So that's why we opened a few stores to be able to execute all these new parameters that we were doing for safety. Understand that before, if it was getting a food from A to B, now there's going to be 3 to 4 steps in between those 2 steps. So that is a whole new setup. That is a whole new process. And with the new safety procedures that we wanted to implement in a restaurant, we had to train ourselves. You have to understand all of these things were pretty much hypothetical. These weren't tested yet. Luckily, we have partners in Hong Kong and Singapore that we were able to get information from way ahead of time. So about the distancing, how they reacted to it, and what needs to be done. So we were able to really get into a groove wherein we focused on being safe and focused on getting the consumer confidence back. So we definitely had to change a lot of things. So that's why we also opened. When we opened, we saw glimpses of light, right? You know, we had restaurants wherein it did record sales during Mother's Day, right? Because we did our own delivery. So there are those glimpses of hope. Like last Father's Day, we had one brand that did better than they did last year. So those are glimpses of hope that people will dine again. There's that urge for people to eat. But now we have to make sure that, again, taking over that fear. So we decided to push through with our plan of doing deliciously safe dining. So this is going across all our brands. What we had to do was go beyond what we felt that the DOH and the DTI have been given as the guidelines. We also did our own research as far as what we can use to sanitize or disinfect all our utilities and equipment in the restaurant. We decided to go with UV light. UV light, although there's a lot of people that are saying there are its limitations, there are things that it's bad for the skin, but if you study it enough, you can circumvent those negative sides by enclosing it, right? There are other ways that you can circumvent it, right? So we put in a lot of study into it. We're making sure that our staff is well aware of the negative impacts of UV light on skin and on the eyes. Yes, we know that. So that's why we're making sure that everything is enclosed, everything is remote controlled, so that we can turn it on and off. So more than that, we've also practiced doing our online ordering. But as mentioned, because of our brands, we are in the segment of casual dining. Our business really revolves around the customer experience, right? our restaurant revolved around our investment into the look and feel and the ambiance of the restaurant. Now we're having to convert all that into a takeout container, which is very difficult. It's possible, but it's very difficult. So dine-in was something that we really wanted to push. But we didn't want to push it when we weren't ready. So we made sure that everything was set up. From a newspaper in Baguio picked up our safety efforts, and we're very proud at what we're doing. But of course, I also told my teams that what we're doing right now is all new. This is a time for us to be understanding of each other, that all the things that we are implementing now are new, and all the things that they're experiencing is new to them. So as such, because we were innovators in our field and doing this first, we were getting a lot of resistance, right? So we had to make sure that we trained our staff again on how to handle these resistance, right? How to explain properly and communicate the information that all we're doing is for their safety and for the safety of the entire community. So we now have the burden to educate them, and we're keeping our foot in the ground and making sure that we understand the scenario. We're agile enough to change things and again redesign. If before our company is used to having everything pretty much concrete, every month opening stores, we already had an entire pipeline for the entire year, an international opening, and now suddenly that put all in a halt. But we weren't going to stay on the sidelines and watch, sorry for a lack of a better term, but watch our business die. We will put in more money. We will invest into it because we know that that is the only way. We're spending at about 150 to 200,000 per store on extra safety measures on reopening. And I know for the smaller businesses, it's much hard because they look at this like, what? I'm going to have to put 200,000 more and not even guarantee a return on that investment. So that is a very difficult step. But again, it becomes a chicken and the egg. If you don't get the consumer confidence back, they will not dine in again. If you don't dine in again, you will close, right? So what we've decided as a group is that the group has to be agile. We have to really understand. And because we're very hands-on with our business, we're in tune with what's happening. On a day-to-day, we're actually updating everyone. And it's becoming harder as things are coming in and we're having to readjust every time, but it has to be done. So a lot of people, sir, this is different. This is coming in, changes like this. We just have to follow. We roll with the punches. We do it as we do it, or else we'll be stagnant. So I guess redesign is what we're doing now for the future. We're planning for the worst, but we're hoping for the best. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Planning for the best, hoping for the worst, no? Okay, and what I love about what he mentioned, very persistently is customer confidence, consumer confidence. I think that's a key word coming from Eric, and all new, leading to all new understanding, patience, communication, and recognizing that there will be resistance in process of innovation, and there will be calculated risk, especially in bringing in new investments or new expenses or new investments related to safety, which is their priority. Redesigning the operational process, that's why they closed first, but they reopened later. Very nice. And the best statement that I will get, partner, is be agile enough to roll with the punches. Be agile enough to roll with the punches. Thank you so much, Eric, for that. And you can just
imagine. I love the hashtag, Doc Carl.
What's your hashtag?
Their hashtag is deliciously safe. So being true to their brand, no? Ganda ng hashtag.
And, all right. Look, feel, and ambience is now shifting into their priority, which is safety, towards consumer confidence. Beautiful. And let's proceed to a person who would give us the 3 brand story. And let's compare the brands. Let's see how, if one formula fits the other, or is there really a one fit for all solution in his case? Partner?
Okay. Before moving on to our second panelist, Doc Carl, I'd like to greet our friends, our journalist friends. They are now in our participants list. Otel Ocampo of Manila Standard, Luella Desiderio of Philippine Star, of course, our friend Irma Isip of Malaya, Miss Bernie Magkilat of Manila Bulletin, and Poy Stephen Carinal of Philippine Daily Inquirer. Good afternoon sa inyo.
Good afternoon.
And yes, moving forward to our
Partner.
second panelist.
Partner, if I may, let's invite questions already in the Q&A. If you have any question, please put it in the Q&A button. And may we request everyone to please change your name, because it's quite dangerous for our administrator to recognize who you are. And there could be confusion in the way we communicate with each other. So please put in your question in the Q&A using your name, please. Salamat po.
Okay, our second panelist is a banker by profession for 25 years, while he simultaneously pursued his entrepreneurial journey for 3 decades. He established Milken Group of companies and created these brands: Fior Gelato, the pure Italian ice cream; Donburi Mix, casual Japanese dine-in; DM Express, which is a Japanese quick eats; and the newest is Kurimi Milk Tea Bar, which is a Japanese milk tea. Our speaker is a franchise leader since 1997 and has been supporting the advocacy of entrepreneurship continuously through the various franchise associations and business organizations in the country. One of our fellow certified franchise executives, ladies and gentlemen, the president of Fior Gelato, Mr. Ricardo Cunha. Good afternoon, Richie.
Yes, good afternoon, Che. Thank you so much for the introduction, President Che. And of course, hi to Dr. Carl, and also to Chris Lim and our friend, PFA Chairman, Richard Sanz. So to the PFA, thank you so much for inviting me for this afternoon's 8 PFA E-Kapihan episode. You were right, President Che, when you said I'm a mix, both a professional banker and an entrepreneur, but really my heart was in entrepreneurship, honestly. And for me to be able to establish brands under the Milken Group for the past 28 years, you should have really the guts of being an entrepreneur, the love for doing it. This afternoon, I was asked to share some insights on how our company was able to redesign the food business and how we were able to cope up with our with the existing scenario we have right now. Actually, 4 days prior to the official announcement of the lockdown, we thought we were prepared enough to face the pandemic challenges. No, I was meeting all the group heads of the different companies under the Milken Group, and we were ready and preparing all the necessary contingencies for at least a month or so. But the turn of events came in so fast that despite all the awareness, the readiness, and the preparations, we were still caught unguarded. And because of the magnitude of this unprecedented pandemic, I would personally see we are in a situation wherein this is really a fundamental global human crisis unfold. And so I told my group, I said, guys, we have survived decades of various crises in the past, such as the energy crisis of the early 1990s, the Asian turmoil and financial crisis, the mid-1990s until the last and third and fourth quarter of that decade. And of course, all the calamities we had on the 20th century. But I said, this one is what we're encountering is a killer. It's an unseen opponent, which right now we don't have any cure. So I said, the group was so fast enough to create what we call our NNL program. This is our new normal landscape, which highlights on and focus on 3 major areas. If you'll see the screen right now, the slides, I said we were focusing on three major areas of which we place a code green, a code red, and a code blue. And this gave us a reason for all the brands how they were able to cope up through the NNL program. Okay, as far as the green code is concerned, Pure Gelato, they said we were reimagining our business model. If you notice, we didn't use the term reinventing, but rather the word and the term reimagining, considering the fact that we are confronted by a scenario wherein we are navigating a unfamiliar terrain, which is totally new to us. In the case of Your Gelato, a 28-year-old brand, which has been accustomed to the traditional selling through scooping stations, in malls, in schools, or typical ice cream parlor, which is a dine-in setup. Even our traditional Pure Gelato franchising schemes are all affected by this global crisis. Therefore, we decided under this NNL program to formulate a simple dealership scheme for our Pure Gelato prospects with a very reasonable and cheaper packages to compare it with our regular franchise. Here, we have more flexible terms and requirements for them to own a simple scooping station. There is a big difference. Also, we decided to bring gelato experience to the convenience of our customers through our new packaging like Gelato in Pints. Now we are introducing 20 new flavors which were never been served for the past 28 years. And these are totally new experiences of enjoying Pure Gelato at the comfort of your homes or in your offices. So there's a big reconstruction of the business model for Pure Gelato, which is considered as a traditional brand for the past 28 years. So our code red was experienced by DM Express. The things I mentioned right now are all experiences already for the past 3 months. And we're sharing it because it has been tested, it's been proven, and we are looking forward to pushing all the programs ahead of us. Okay, as far as the code red is concerned for DM Express, despite the compliance of all the safety and health protocols and the gradual reopening of both the Donburi Mix, which is a dine-in, and the DM Express, which is a food-to-go, we still anticipate a very slow flow of sales and revenues, maybe for the next few months or maybe until the end of the year. So like what Pure Gelato did under the mother, which is Milking Corporation, Trio Mix Foods, which is a subsidiary, handling both the Japanese brands of Donburi Mix and DM Express, also created their own NNL program, which is create multiple streams of revenues. So the typical standard stores we have in malls or even schools or in community malls, which is on retail, could not be as effective as we are envisioning it. So the program right now, what we did is to create a distributorship program of all the frozen products for both brands. Okay? The program was open to all the employees initially and eventually to all the franchisees and to all resellers. So definitely in this case of DMXS, we are able to create more possible streams of earnings. Okay? So in the case of Kurimi, which is a new company, in fact, it was supposed to be officially launched in our franchise Asia. But again, we were able to proceed despite non-official launching. We said in the case of Kurim, it was tested that the transformation from the brick and mortar, which we are doing and most of the brands are doing, we're able to transform it to the digital platform. It was funny because, again, there was no official launching, but again, the product was able to be pushed because of technology. And in this case, Kurimi Milk Tea was able to pivot fast enough, taking advantage of the resurgence of the online business. No, lucky for us. Yes, there was that immediate need to react fast in integrating the traditional selling through digital technology. I know it was a cultural change for us. I myself, the team, we were challenged on how we used to operate our organization, the setup, and all the processes. Diba? Something very new to us. But again, now it has accelerated the performance of the products because of its transformation. And likewise, we were able to deliver not only the product, the service, but the value to our customers. So the three brands was able to pivot, it was able to transcend, it was able to move on despite all the difference during the quarantine. So we were so happy. May we have the next screen, please? Okay, this screen shows us the result of the effort. The month of March was left definitely for security reasons. I even didn't bother to bother my staff, my officers, my colleagues, directors, and stakeholders. All I said was, let's take care of the security and safety of our people and everybody. But come April, I said, we have to start moving. We have to start, as entrepreneurs, we have to start pivoting our businesses. We will not survive. As Eric said earlier, we cannot just be sitting down, right, Eric, and wait for all the businesses to fall down. So immediately the group was able to transcend to a new setup, of which this is the result. In the case of Pure Gelato, there was the creation of our new concept, new branding of our Pure Gelato pints. You'll notice this is not our regular setup. This is not our regular logo, but this is able to help the business sustain. So we said it's a business sustainability effort, and it's helping. Okay, in the case of DM Express, wherein we said they wanted to create multiple streams of revenues, yes, they were able to do it very fast. It has helped grow the revenues. Now we are able to get through our distributors. They're able to sell the products. And as they said, in online, you're able to break the borders of business. Unlike before, they would go to the stores and that's it. But now, through the online and digital platform, we're able to distribute the products through our distributors more widely. Okay, in the case of Kurimi Milk Tea, our baby, I think of all the brands, they were the most lucky because not only they were able to easily adapt the product to the new setup of selling to the online, but again, at the end of the day, we were able to give value to the customers. Now, all the brands are following the success of Kurimi on how they did their business. So, lahat gumagaya now, no? They want also the online and transform to the digital business. So at the end of the talk, I would say the effort was a positive effort, no? Building up of new frameworks for multi-products to be carried by all the stores, regardless of the franchise. So now we're able to interconnect each and every company, each and every product to each and every franchise. So if you are a Pure Gelato franchise now, you're able to carry a DM Express product, you're able to carry a Kurimi product, with even buying another franchise. These are the things we did not only for the company, but primarily to help our existing franchisees, the stores, and of course, for the sake of all the stakeholders. So this is my presentation. Thank you so much.
Wow, beautiful indeed, partner. I was waiting for that. How would the three brands, interconnect And the conclusion said it well, that the interconnectedness of the three brands actually made him help his franchisees and even created the new framework. Beautiful indeed. What an innovative approach to do. While others are very careful at brand confusion, in his case, there was an interconnectedness of this and collaboration happened. Beautiful part, kumpare Richie. Maraming salamat sa presentation mo. Partner, ano masasabi mo doon?
Yes, thank you, Richie. And, partner, we're busy writing down notes. And I know you also have a list of questions already for our panelists. And let's move forward to our third panelist para we can go to our Q&A na later. So,
we'll maybe request our friends from the media to also key in the question in the Q&A para we'll be able to integrate and ask them. Our friends, our good friends from the different papers of the media. Thank you.
Yes. And I think, partner, may mga list of questions doon that are already directed to our panelists. So if they want to answer na, they can already answer the questions at the Q&A box. Our third panelist has more than 35 years of experience in the food business, 25 years of which in top executive positions of major food chains. He is currently the President and Chief Executive Officer of Shakey's Pizza Asia Ventures Incorporated, and has led the company since February 2003. Under his leadership, Shakey's has posted double-digit growth consecutively for the past 16 years, a feat never seen in the food service industry. He is also known for his passion for excellence and has been invited to speak and share his wow philosophy by major companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, and San Miguel Corporation, and has been invited to many public seminars and conferences. My good friend here has graduated from Central Colleges of the Philippines with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, and has earned units in the Business Administration Master's Program of the Graduate School of Business at Ateneo de Manila University. Ladies and gentlemen, our last but definitely not the least panelist for today, Mr. Vicente Gregorio. Good afternoon, Vic.
Good afternoon, Cheryl, and good afternoon also, Dr. Carl. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'd like to greet all the officers and the organizers of PFA for this wonderful project you have done. And I'm very glad that finally I'm able to join the PFA Ikapihan. To say that the last 3 months has been very busy, I think it's an understatement, no? Talagang bubog. And good afternoon also to the three gentlemen that spoke before me. It's very hard to share after three credible speakers speak before you. To the audience who have zoomed in, my task today is to basically share with you a different perspective, my view of how the crisis has affected the industry, how the crisis has affected the consumers, and also what I believe will be the critical competencies that would be needed moving forward. But mind you, everything is very fluid. No? So these things I will share, present, may hold water now, but may also have to be adjusted moving forward. So let me begin by sharing. Is this already on? Okay, let me begin by first stating what I believe is already quite obvious for us in the food service industry. You know? This COVID-19 pandemic is, for us, a black swan event in the food service industry. This black swan event has affected everybody in the food service industry, big or small, and it really caught us by surprise. We were all severely hit, and while the industry has gone through several crises in the past, you know, and like you said, Cheryl, I've been in this business almost 36 or 37 years. I've seen several crises affecting the industry that we are in. But if you put all of the negative impact of all those crises in the past together, I think they will still pale in comparison to what this pandemic COVID-19 has done for us. And we always hear people say things will probably go near normal if only a vaccine is developed and made readily available. But it will still be a long struggle. It will be worse before it gets better. So these are the, what does a pandemic or the black swan thing means? It's rare, it's unexpected, it's dramatic and widespread. Walang pinipili po yan. Whether you're a single operator or whether you're a big food chain or medium size, it affects everybody. And the resulting after effects or the aftermath of this crisis will change everything. No? And a black event, normally afterward, we only will rationalize, could we have predicted it or we could not. So in the end, these things are what people always are afraid will happen, but eventually it does happen and it changes everybody. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay. So for the last 3 months, basically, in our group, we had several observations on how this pandemic has affected the general consumers. You know? Again, this is as of June 25. Okay, it's very fluid. Safety consciousness, obviously, has become. Who was the control? PFA, can you move on, please? Click, one click. Okay. Safety now is very paramount. No? Like what Eric Lee said, they have to feel and they have to be confident and trust that it will be safe eating in your store. For us in Shakey's, we say the consumers now would really want to know, feel, and see that it is safe to eat in your establishment. And without this, the confidence will not come in, and it will be hard for them to consider eating in our restaurants. The next one is their increased consumption in off-premise. You know, the ECQ has required people to stay at home, and their fear is so strong that they might contract the disease. They really want to feel safe and just order and eat at home. They crave for our products, yes, but in the beginning, even before they allow people to go out, really the consumption off-premise went up. You know? And this is, I think, moving forward, will be the new norm. Now, we also observed during these last 3 months, people are beginning to go back to brands that they are more familiar, brands that they have experience in the past, and they had a good overall experience, and brands that they love and trust. On top of that, consumers, because of the impact, the economic impact of this crisis, cash is king. Everything, their money has to be used very wisely, very worth it. And the value for money is also very critical. So it's hard for them to imagine going to new places and try if it's okay or not, because they want to have the money's worth. So the level of adventurism, which has always been strong before this crisis, is now definitely much lower than before the crisis. And because of most of the people are stuck in their homes, they're now exposed to just the computers, Facebook, online, even the non-native people are now influenced with their younger members of the family. And they had the first taste of the new digital options. And they experienced that unique advantages that these digital options have given them. And once they become very comfortable with this, I think moving forward, we can expect them to use more of it. I mentioned earlier about lower purchasing power. I think there is no company, very few companies would really be saying that they've grown bigger than during pre-COVID. During these times, a lot of the businesses have been severely affected. We've heard a lot of sad news. Just yesterday, I heard unemployment has soared up to almost 18%. And it was just for April. And I think it will still go up in this month, June, May, and moving forward. So the economic impact of this crisis is widespread. And many of the guests will always look for superior value. And that is something that we have to deal with. Finally, because everybody kind of knows someone who got affected or worse, succumbed to the disease, more people are very health conscious. Their heightened awareness and consciousness on their personal health, their immune system, makes them want to discard their bad habits. So how does it affect them? In the consumer's mindset, they would like to look for healthier activities and healthier food. So it's now becoming more something very pronounced in their needs. So these are the top 6 changes, or many of them actually were already strong before the COVID, before the crisis. But this crisis just further emphasizes on the 6 key ones that the consumers have. And so now I would like to, let's move on, please. Okay. I have here 8 business competencies that I think is very critical to navigate, survive, and even go through this crisis in a better position. The very first one is being a guest-centric company, guest-centric strategy. Even before the crisis, we always believed the guest should be at the center of everything. But now, even more so, when they value their money, they want to make sure they're safe, what goes on their mind, we have to serve and we have to focus. Now, mind you, the guests will differ from every restaurant, every brand, every organization. Just for example, for Richie and Eric, they have multiple brands. The guest for one of their brands will not exactly be the guest for their other brands. And the way they behave, the way they buy will change. So I think it's going to be very, very important moving forward that the organizations and the businesses put the guest at the center of every key initiative, every key program that they do. Now, to be able to do that, you also have to have a brand that is going to be relevant and is going to show resilience. You know? This crisis will force a lot of us to rethink our own brand positioning, what has brought us here, your brands, our brands, to where it is now, may not be the same solutions, may not be the same requirements for us to survive and even grow after the aftermath of this crisis. So to have a very clear, consistent, and unique brand will be very crucial moving forward. In the past, pwede na the barrier to entry in this industry is very low. You have a few millions, you have a retirement pay, you can do this, go franchise. But nowadays, there will be a lot of casualties, and it is predicted it will get worse. So having a strong brand, a relevant and a resilient brand will be very important. Now, to be able to have this guest-centric strategy and a very strong brand positioning, what will be now also important will be the ability to study data. The guest and market analytics skill and competency will be very important. In the past, it used to be only for the big companies or the ones that can afford. But you see, there are many ways for you to understand your guests, and any chance you can get information or data on your target guests or consumers, you really have to get it. Because only then will you be able to analyze, create, develop the right insights for you to develop the right programs that will wow them, that will make them choose you over the others. So guest and market data analytics is now a must. However, you cannot do this analytics, market, or big data thing unless you digitalize. This is also one thing we've been hearing even before the crisis, digital transformation. It's become like a buzzword in business. And it's not even new. But because of this crisis, because we want to know who our guests are and how to wow them, the ability to digitalize will always be now a primordial concern. It is no longer optional. So you have to know the data about your guests. You also have to know how to create new channels, like what Richie has said. How do you create new platforms and invest in digital assets that will allow you to generate more revenues and even save costs by being more efficient? So digital transformation is now going to be very, very critical. But to do that, you also have to have the agility and the speed, which again, I think Eric mentioned a lot of times. The ability to not just be able to be quick, but also do the right things. Today, because of this crisis, what is now clear, it's not just about just being the biggest or being the most popular or even us who've been just 4 to 5 years in this business. It's now about being able to adapt quickly and properly to the changing environment. And speed and agility, again, the word agile has also been very often used, no? And even something that's very common in the business. But now this is really critical. And in our experience, the ability to be very agile and have speed will depend on having a team of people with a very strong culture. Because moving at such fast-paced changes and all of these things, if you don't have a very solid culture, it's easy for the organization to disintegrate. Each will go on their own way. People will not be in unison. There will be no like minds and like hearts. And having a strong culture, particularly a very strong entrepreneurial sense of accountability and sense of mamalasakit, will be very key for you to be able to move faster, be very agile, and be able to address the current situation properly. People will have to work with a certain culture, but the person who drives the culture will be your leaders, your organization's leaders. It starts from the owners and the entrepreneurs to the CEO. They will drive the culture. And if the leadership structure of an organization is not credible, by credible, I mean you've got to be seen as competent and have the right character, and the sense of interest has to be very low. So our formula, my formula in that is credibility equals competence plus character over sense of self-interest, SI. And a strong, credible leader is going to be very crucial. I could not overemphasize that. And this crisis is actually a good test for all our leaders, all of your leaders in your organization, all of your leaders that you employ. If they are not credible, I would say good luck. And lastly, financial stability, which I believe is both the beginning and the end. If our business model had very unstable, unhealthy balance sheets and profitable margins and profitability margins, it will be very difficult. More so now with a crisis with greatly reduced revenues, higher costs. Cash is king, and we've got to monitor this resource very, very carefully. And in our case, in Shakey's, we look at it weekly and even daily on some aspects, just to make sure we know and can predict where it's going to happen, where it's going to move on. Next slide, please. Okay, if you do all of this we'll be able to address the black swan thing. And the black swan, next. Okay, I did some research, and the black swan came from the Greek word crisis, which means decisive. And in the Chinese word, it stands for 2 characters, which has often been used in motivational Western talks, that it's both danger and opportunity. So I was thinking about this. I was saying, okay, so there's decisive point, there's danger, there's opportunity. So what can be my add-on? How can I add value to this word? So when I look at the plural word of crisis, notice that in that word crisis, in the middle is, can you please text? And move, can you, there. You take away the C, you take away the S. it's like a coincidence, the word rise comes out in the word crisis. So I believe that we must really seek and take advantage of the opportunities that comes with this crisis now and after the afterwards, and we must be decisive in order to rise from the crisis that we face and survive and even grow stronger in the end. So in Shakey's and the peri-peri culture, crisis basically means it's an opportunity to wow. So I end by saying that it's going to be tougher down the road, but there will always be opportunities. And if you have the right competencies and if you focus on the guest and aim to really not just meet their expectation, but exceed them, I think there's a chance to grow out of this and survive.
And I will say, wow, really wow. The partner, since last night when we had a dry run and he mentioned about the critical business competencies, been waiting to really wait for it and understand it. And you know what, partner? I already did something. Believe it or not, I took a picture of the slide, sent it to my Mancom, and I made already a survey, as to how we are having all these competencies in their own personal point of view. Then I'm already calling a Mancom meeting, and we would like to evaluate our what's our grade, each of the 8 competencies that Vic enumerated to us, so that we can survive the black swan. Partner?
Yes, that character that you just exhibited, Doc Carl, is also what our panelists. It's really a wow presentation from all of them. It's not just agility, but being reflexive. You're very quick to adapt. You're very reflexive in terms of surviving and adapting. I think we have a lot of questions already from the...
Yes. And I'd like to start with Architect Palafox. Of course, there are so many questions already. By the way, in case we will not be able to answer your questions, our secretariat will find a way to reach out to you for answers. Okay. In fact, our executive director have answered already some questions related to PFA. My question to Architect Palafox is this. Listening to you, Architect, it seems to me that the conclusion of what you're saying is that small is the new big. Is it what we're seeing in the future? Because as I listen to you, Architect, I don't know if it is a vision, a forecast, or a wishful thinking on your part, to show us those pictures. What are those? Are those vision? Are those design? Your wishful thinking? Are you really seeing that something happening in our lifetime? And of course, is small the new big? Architect Pala.
Like that, I call it postcards from the future. The one Pasig River pedestrian bridges, we proposed that I think about 25 years ago. And then the urban master plan, architectural perspectives for Clark, we submitted that 2 years ago. The one for Metro Davao urban master plan a year ago. And as may have mentioned, I've done projects in 40 countries. It's more challenging for our recommendations and plans to be implemented in our country. Elsewhere in the world, like Dubai, my recommendations are 1981. They're still following it and upgrading, updating them. But in our country, somehow, its planning is not there, and architecture and good design are not really being appreciated and implemented. So those are doables. I call them tactical urbanism. In fact, what I've shown you, Milan right now, during this pandemic, is doing that. Widening sidewalks, getting part of the roadway, the outer lanes, as bicycle lanes. Milan is doing that now. Manhattan, New York, they did that after the OPEC oil crisis of 1973, making Manhattan more walkable, more bikeable. So the best practices in the world, it has been put forward in our country, but somehow they don't get implemented. And I think this pandemic will force us to implement the best practices in the world.
All right. Architect, concretely, could you cite to us any particular area in the Philippines that you would say this is good for the new normal? Concretely, be it a store, a restaurant, a mall, or a city. If I may ask you, so that visually we can already say, okay, this is what architect is talking about. Something close or something that is already it.
Uh,
You have
it's
any?
very right. I may not be objective, but it's because we are part of Rockwell. It's higher density development. Our master plan Rockwell is only 51% sellable, 49% open space, non-sellable. In other parts, it's 70% built, 30% includes the roads already. Elsewhere in the world, like Singapore, 45% open space. Hong Kong, 70% open space. So some, I'm not accusing, but it seems some developers, they consider parks and open spaces as a cost penalty. We urban planners, we see parks and open spaces are lungs of the city. And we Filipinos are very sociable. We need more interaction areas. We're very, very sociable. We touch, we embrace, and we have higher density even in open spaces. That's why we have very low immunity, because we don't have parks and open spaces. After the plagues in Europe and the US, they build more parks and open spaces, clean water and clean sanitation. They build the sewerage systems. We don't even have a good sewerage system in Metro Manila. Now during this pandemic, it's an opportunity to implement all of them. Walkable, bikeable, livable, more open spaces, and so on. So we can learn from our mistakes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, architect. And for all the other panelists, especially from the restaurant industry, the dining business, this is a question from Manila Standard, from Miss Ocampo, Hotel Ocampo, I'm sorry. Given the current situation, are you considering expansion despite of the limitation? And another related question is, there is a big increase in delivery and takeouts. Are these good enough to cover up for the decline in the dine-in rather? Okay, so any one of the three panelists may want to discuss it. Is there a mood to even expand despite the limitation? And are the sales from delivery and takeaways good enough to cover for the decline in the dine-in? Yeah, anyone from you guys?
Yeah, if I may, Dr. Carl,
Please.
I think the answer is really dependent on the actual situation and circumstances of each company. But there is an opportunity to expand, especially if you feel that you have to strengthen a new channel or develop a new channel. Many organizations have opted to open more delivery stores. Some are ghost kitchens, they're called. So there will still be a good opportunity to do that if you want to strengthen the off-premise business revenues that you want. And the delivery and carry out can help if they can play a bigger part of the revenue stream. But if the model of the business was very dependent on dine-in before COVID, let's say 80–90% is dine-in, people will tell you it's going to be tough, because even the growth even if the carry-out and the delivery segment doubles or triples, if it started off from a very low base, it will be difficult to cover for the loss of dine-in, which was like the lion's share of the revenues before. So that's why this thing is really tough for many in the industry.
Yeah. Is that your case, Eric? You're more into the dine-in.
So just to add on what Mr. Gregorio said, I think he covered most of it. But again, because our setup is more casual dining, all our brands are based on the experience. So from the time that you walk into the restaurant, the experience with us begins. And now you're converting that into a takeout service and delivery service that just doesn't translate so easily. So, but we tried, to give perspective on what Mr. Gregorio mentioned, is that we are used to seeing about 90% or 80–90% of our dine-in population, and 10% to maybe a high of 15% only for delivery. So it will be a paradigm shift to suddenly make it 90% delivery and 15% dine-in, when you were always dependent on the experience, the ambience, the service. right?
Mm.
That's the added value that our brands do. So currently at the 30%, 30% capacity, we'll take it, but it's definitely not enough.
Okay.
Like, wow, biglang ang lakas ng benta, but it gives you hope,
Yeah.
right? But there's still a lot that we have to do, and there's still a lot that we have to go through. Though it will get
I
worse
love the
before it
word
gets
hope. Yeah,
better, for
Richie,
sure.
the Lucky Kurimi story. Yeah.
Yes, I think Vic and Eric is right. It will really depend on the kind of the product and the industry. In the case of Pure Gelato, obviously we are affected. That's why in my presentation, we had to immediately reinvent our business model for Pure Gelato so we can proceed. And but in the case of two of the brands which are in the food to go, which is Kurimi and the DM Express. In fact, Kurimi even doubled or tripled their sales during the lockdown. So obviously, for delivery, there's so much growth in it.
All right. And the mood is towards expansion, Richie?
Definitely, we were supposed to be very aggressive for this year, 2020. And I think it's more of just retuning. Lucky, out of the three products and brands, two are in line with what's happening right now. So we said we just have to push forward and go for your opening. In fact, we just opened a lot of stores recently, and they're doing well.
So the multi-brand realities actually became a blessing, no? I think favorite ko si Peri Peri actually eh. But I was glad when it opened up already. Okay, there's another question that I think will apply to everyone. What transitions or improvements did your customer service activities go through to adapt to the new normal, traditionally and digitally? Was there a remarkable transition of these customer service activities? Vic?
Because the dine-in is basically restricted, the experience for the brand and the products will now be on the delivery and on the digital platforms. I think what is critical in those areas is that it has to be very convenient and frictionless, no? So what they call it. So if the way to order to those channels for our business is very difficult for the consumers, that will spell trouble. So we will have to quickly adapt and fix those ways of ordering so that it will be very convenient, very idiot-proof, if I may say so, so that the consumers will want to do this more often.
The easier, the better. Eric, the transition, what did you improve so that you can continue with the customer experience that we come to your restaurants for?
So I think what we practiced was, let's not hard sell. I think even with dealing with our franchisees, we never emphasize on like coming to the restaurant, buy this, buy that, because I don't think it's a time for that. What we translated during our marketing efforts online was to really, you know, this is for livelihood. We're doing this. We have some stores that lucky if we break even, but we're opening so that we can study and optimize our operations. But definitely online, our presence is about, like what Mr. Gregorio said, is that making it convenient, and he said friction proof, I would say seamless as possible, and not just stick to one option. You will see that during this transition, as I mentioned, we have to understand that people will still have to want to do the old school way, and we will still have to be able to accommodate that. The transition from physical to digitalization will take time. It just accelerated it because of the crisis. And I think the Filipinos will learn very quick. That's not going to be the problem. The problem is now. For the innovators that are starting it, you will see that friction. And the only option is giving them the old school way, slightly the new way, and giving them all the options necessary. When it comes to ordering, we're in all channels because you want to be in all channels. And then after a month, you look at it, optimize that, which channels work for you and which doesn't. And then what we also do is basically, you know, we know the channels now, and you know, we promote through marketing online.
Right. So the customers remain kings and queens. Richie.
The customer is always right.
All right. And Richie, your experience.
Yes, like what Vic and Eric said, when we do our businesses and the concepts, mostly it's really going towards the experience of going to the store. In fact, the reason why you go to a DM Express because you get your maki fresh on site, you grill your yakitori on site. So, diba? Andun yung experience of the Japanese look. But again, same with Kurimi, you go to a store because you experience the 2D look or the garden look at what you see at the back. But these are things we are aware. But again, we are going towards more for the convenience right now because of the online. It's a choice for them that they just have to go to convenience more than the experience going to the store.
So the closer it is to the experience, the better, and possibly the most seamless possible, frictionless transaction, so to speak. Here's a question. I think Vic would love to answer this. How do you measure the effectiveness of the business models given in the food industry? Is there a measure now? Are there like business matrices that can be used to check and evaluate them? What do you think is the best indicator of business effectiveness of a business model now, especially for food?
Easily, the first one would be revenues, right? From revenue, everything else follows. So the business will have to be revisited now. This crisis, if it's called a blessing, it forces everyone now to revisit the brand, the box, the unit economics, the box model, because a lot of things have changed. And what has worked before, for many brands I know, as late as March 15, everybody was very happy. Everything was working great. For us in Shakey's, we're already saying 17 years, double-digit growth, consecutive 17 years was in the bag. And then suddenly March 16, the day after, all hell breaks loose, right? So revenue will have to be there, and the profitability margins will have to be revisited, because even if you sell a lot through delivery, carry out, but the margins is not enough to cover for the fixed and variable costs, then it will also not work. So a lot of streamlining has to happen, rationalizing, right sizing. You're going to see a lot of that in this business, because these are the key numbers that will have to work, that have to be made positive again, because everything has gone south since the ECQ, and no one is spared. So
you're expecting to create profit, to make profit in this
for many, the goal now is just to survive this thing by this year, and then be in a good position to grow by taking advantages of the opportunities that will come. There will be opportunities.
And the branding harvest will just not come yet so soon, but it's something for the future, just like those in the hospitality business, no?
Yes.
They don't have the sales and the profit, but branding can come stronger now. And team building and culture building leadership, right?
The difficult thing, Carl, is it's changing every day.
Yes.
So it's hard to get a grip exactly, you know? So you just have to, like Eric said, roll with the punches or something like that. You've got to keep an eye on the ball and see how you can quickly adapt so that you can survive, save cash, and then be ready to pounce on the opportunities that will show.
Yeah, in the last ikapihan, we defined pivot. And by pivot, we mean we change the strategies, but not the vision. So that's a beautiful term to use in redesigning. Now, pivot is you remain true to your vision, to your core values, but you change strategies that matter. Eric, what's your response to that question?
Well, I guess for key metrics, there's always the P&L. But more than that is really forecasting. And forecasting the proper way, we've been telling our teams to work within the budgets. If before we were a little bit relaxed on a little bit higher food costs, a little bit higher labor costs, which you can afford, now you can't afford it. So when we projected our revenues, we started at a very high 50%. And we thought that that's already conservative. Then you come into the realizations that it's 30% to 20%. So you're like, what Mr. Gregorio mentioned is that it changes every day. And you will have to rechange that forecast and rechange your costing based on what you're actually getting. Like I said, a lot of these are all hypothetical at the moment until you actually open and see it. So that's why we're saying that it will get worse before it gets better, is because only now people are starting to realize the impact, the real impact of what this lockdown has done to us. Come July, you will see a lot of their groups running optimizations on their locations, taking out all redundancies.
Yeah.
And you will see now that vicious, harsh reality of unemployment, closure of restaurants, and everything else, defaults and whatnot.
Yeah, are you expecting to make profit this year? Is that in?
That is not the objective. The objective today is really survival, as what Mr. Gregorio mentioned. It's survival, and cash is king. Hold on to it, optimize, and be ready. Pahaba ng pisik.
Richie, how do you know that your brands are successful? And your mod?
It's really a numbers.
I mean, Richie, what about you?
Yeah, you know, Carl, as a banker, the end of the day, I would go for my cash flow. Definitely, whatever discussions we are doing here, at the end of the day, you will say, what is my situation? What's the cash flow situation? It's true that revenues will be the gauge of everything. In the case of Milking Group, we don't expect to make profit this year. We don't know yet. But again, the primary purpose of all the things we're doing is to make sure the stores, either these are company stores, independent stores, or franchise stores, would at least make a little or maybe break even or survive this crisis. But again, it's a day-to-day situation. We are reading it very closely. Again, I'll speak of cash flow is very important.
That's why agility became a very popular word, because we can change. We should be change faster than change. All right. And survival of the business is a common theme of your answers. Question: have your employees survived? Have you, retrenched? Have you, what happened to your people? Considering that your businesses are very service oriented at that, what happened to your people now? Maybe no.
Yeah, in cases where the stores have to close, the option of no work, no pay has to come into play. I think it is the task of every organization to make sure they protect the employees and help them in any way we can. We gave COVID pays, we made sure we advanced what we could, and we make sure their safety and if they feel sick, they don't report, we take care of it. Okay? They get paid still. But long term, it all will depends on how it boils out, the dining recovery, the cash burn. So you just have to work and manage on a day-to-day basis for now. So that's
Eric?
Reality speaking, we will definitely have to optimize operations and looking at it, how many stores will close. Again, we're looking at redundancies. You'll see the bigger groups would have more of these redundancies because they exist within blocks of each other. For us, we're having to look into servicing an area, or can we suspend operations? So we're trying to figure out new ways. You have to understand our landlords are also experiencing this for the first time. So the world is rolling with the punches with everyone. So if we understand that, I think it's best that we speak and keep an open communication with our landlords, with people that are stakeholders, and see what we can do in order for us to really weather this storm, right? We will come out stronger, but really it will take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, I'm reserving some of the best questions for Architect Palafox. I have some here. Of course, these questions are courtesy of our participants. Richie, what about you?
Yes, obviously, Carl.
Where are your employees in your...
Hello. Obviously, we are right now in a skeletal setup. In fact, the past months we were in quarantine didn't really much worry me. I think the reality of what's happening started last June 1 when we started to open stores. People started to go for work, report for work. And that's the only time you see the reality of will this store survive? Again, we don't see the actual landscape until we navigate it, and this is the time. Eric was right. From now on forward, this will be the big test. This will be the big test. Going back to the question of employment, we are sticking with our employees. Again, I'm very conscious with my cash flow. Same with the stores. So it's a day-to-day monitoring right now.
Yeah, kaya kung may trabaho ka pa ngayon, mahalin mo yung trabaho mo dahil hindi mo alam kung hanggang kailan pa yan. Give it your best now, guys.
Tama.
Now, there's a question from Roy of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. This goes to all of you. How was your sales since lockdown? What were your original year-end sales? Is it still possible to hit your original goals considering the new protocols? Are you optimistic at hitting your goals? And if not, what are your revised targets? Like, did you revise it? Yeah, Vic.
I think obviously everybody's goals for the year pre-COVID is not going to happen. Or especially, and the amount of recovery will depend on the model of the business and the strength of the brand, the resilience of the brand. If you do 50, 60% of pre-COVID levels, you're actually good. But you can only also do well if you find ways to be more efficient and save costs.
All right. Eric? Are you sticking to your target? Did you set a new one?
I think we have to be realistic. All your plans, like as Mr. Gregorio said, out the window, right?
Okay.
It's more on really reacting to what's being fed to you, the realities of all these hypotheses that we've been making. We projected opening a store, 1 to 2 stores every month. That's all put into a halt. We were prepared for that expansion. So now we're trying to hold on to that and seeing what leads to the future. But we're keeping everything intact. We will optimize all our stores, but it will be tough.
So optimize is the best. Richie?
I told my team, let's put the plans for 2020 behind us. I didn't want to be bothered because we were to hit this and that targets. Through the new normal landscape which we created, let's focus on the NNL program. We were able to remodel or reimagine the business model. We were able to now to make more streams of revenues. So these are the things we are focusing and let the plans of 2020 behind us now.
So simply put, you are playing with your eyes on the ball, not on the scoreboard. Because the performance of the scoreboard will all depend on how good you play the game in every minute of it. No? Parang ganun yung thing. Okay, and here's an interesting question for all the brands as well. The common theme of the day is actually takeouts. How do you keep the cost of delivery down? Because it looks okay, sales looks okay, but to the consumer whom are absorbing the cost of the delivery, it's something else. How do you keep your costs down in delivery, Eric?
I think keeping costs down is really by sourcing the proper materials, by sourcing the proper products to.
No, in delivery, Eric. We mean in the delivery.
Yes.
Because delivery now is a big part of your fraction of the cost.
Delivery is more expensive for us, and it's an added cost. So sourcing the proper materials and the proper costing for your packaging to hold your products is very important. We prefer people dining in because it's cheaper for us.
Right.
But now there's an added cost of packaging cost, and because we were saying that your brand has to transcend into takeout, you're now having to invest more into better packaging, packaging that when you arrive and gets to you, you feel like premium, right? So it's very difficult. But as far as the delivery service and platforms are concerned, it's good that they're having more logistic services that are popping out, and they're being more competitive when it comes to their commission rates, which helps.
Just a follow-up also related to that. What was most helpful to you? What is most helpful to you and your company? The online, like the Grab Food, the Food Panda, the third-party logistics, the Lala Move, even the local riders, or your in-house riders? In your case, Eric, what are you using?
We practice all, so we're part of all the platforms. We're also having our own delivery service, but you're having to realize that this time is the time to collaborate. You're not requested to be good at everything. And once you look and calculate having your own delivery service and the headache of handling all the riders and all that logistics might not be worth it. So working with the proper partners as far as the third-party logistics providers would be a good thing. And like I said, because a lot of these logistic logistic services are popping up, a lot of these bigger groups are looking for ways in order for them to be able to adapt also and change. They're seeing a lot of influx of delivery, but they're also not having enough riders at the moment.
All right. Vic, your answer to that question, please.
It again depends on the model that you have, the business economics. In our case, I guess we're a little more blessed because we have a very strong delivery platform, and our delivery business component has always been very robust. Okay, we have been one of the bigger delivery providers in the industry, and by having the scale, there also is the leverage in partnering with the food aggregators, because you have to work with food aggregators nowadays. No way you can survive without them. But if you're totally dependent on their platform, it's going to be tough because they do charge. They do charge,
All right. And
it can hurt.
Richie?
Yes, actually, it really depend on the brand you're carrying. No, like in the case of DM and Kurimi Milk Tea, they survive all this online situation. Again, we had to input all those costs. We were aware of that. Additional 25 or maybe 30% on the part of the customers might be heavy, but again, we are used to online. People will buy products because they know they had to add on that transportation and delivery cost. So as long as the base of the product, the price of the product is within the standards, then we're okay.
So it's really the value for money, no? All right. Architect Palafox, here are some questions for you. Actually, we're very close to the deadline, which is 4 o'clock by our executive producer, Mr. Chris. Thank you. Before I get the reminder na, Carl, malapit na tayo matapos. Architect, what's the future of kiosks in the malls, and what's the future of malls in general, in your perspective?
In general, the big malls, the super malls, super regional malls, it will be less of them. As I mentioned earlier, we'll have more of the town centers, community centers, village centers, and more restaurants on standalone or along the street or converted pedestrian streets. That will be the trend. And the kiosk inside the mall, as long as preferred is outdoor. I forgot to mention, maybe one good example is Greenbelt, around the Greenbelt Chapel. All the restaurants are facing a park. And I think that will be the trend. And also, I think it's happening now in Scandinavian countries. They have dining like kiosks outside with enclosures that are transparent. Like small kiosks, but dine in outside. And that's what we're seeing. And in fact, I'm doing some calculations now. Maybe the future restaurants would be 30% kitchen of the area, 30% dine-in, 40% al fresco outside. And there will be savings in the future also. Less real estate, more outdoor dining, and more natural lighting and ventilation. So you'll be saving on energy costs. So this will be I think this will be a transformation. And that's the way to go now. And the suburbs will thrive because the suburbs are dormitory towns. So the suburbs will become more of a shopping, dining, working will be in the suburbs. And the downtowns, the CBDs, will become less important, less desirable, including offices, shopping, dining, offices.
All right. So, very specific question on acrylic shields. Is that something you recommend? And number two, very specific again, is how do you prevent the effect of air conditioning air circulation in your architecture now? How do you
I mentioned earlier we had the drawings. There should the air conditioning should not directly hit the diner. It should be in between the tables. Otherwise, the infection get distributed, and on everything now, the windows should be operable. You cross ventilate it, and even the shape of buildings, you have to bring in the sunlight. and natural air and cross ventilations. And in fact, some of the buildings we're doing now, I'm going back to the previous, before oil was discovered in the Middle East, they had the wind towers. You capture the air from above to ventilate the rooms below. And we designed those also in Iran. Several schools, we had wind towers, and the temperature goes down by 20 degrees in summer, 10 degrees in autumn. So we're going back now to the green architecture, more sustainable and more resilient.
The acrylic sheets, architect, is that something you recommend?
Yeah, it's very, as long as we're doing now the list of building materials, easy to clean, germs don't stay too long. And looking back, I think Japanese restaurants are easy to clean surfaces. That's what they do. But the big challenge now, because the architecture will be more like healthcare facility. Now, how can we make them more exciting? That's the trend of architecture now. Less is more, easy to clean, hygiene. Of course, safety is there also. Yeah.
Architect, are you looking into, because I know you're very connected with the government, a lot of local governments consult you. Are you seeing new drafts of our building codes and the sanitary codes?
I think our building codes now are so obsolete. We have to release them. Even you can build a 100-story building, the setback is only 1 meter. You can build a 100-story building, the sidewalk is only 1 meter. Tall buildings outside the world, they have bigger plaza. Because some we like to reach the sky, but we don't know how to meet the ground. So even the mechanical systems, the air filters, and so on, they will have to be revisited. And densities, maybe we'll have a minimum densities for different densities for the rich, the middle income, and the low income. But the low income, we should give them at least the safe densities, not 2 square meters per person.
And therefore, architect, this is not only an innovation by the entrepreneurs, but some policy changes that should happen to make it more relevant to our times. Right?
Definitely, the guidelines like more walkable, more bikeable, more public transit, less cars. Maybe even the restaurants, they may have to embrace the giving in more parking for bicycles, for instance, or share and so on, and wider sidewalks, frontage.
All right, thank you. The three entrepreneurs, leaders of restaurant business. The question has something to do with being environmental. Have you made some adjustment? The issues of the environment. Have you made some green move along the way? I mean, as part of the equation of the innovations that we're doing right now.
Yes, it has to be part and a central strategy of the organization nowadays. Sustainability. We have 3 focus: people, pizza, planet. So we have to take care of all stakeholders, give them the best that we can, and then on the food, more healthier, and the planet, less plastics. So all of this thing, you cannot do your thing and forget about the planet and forget about the future. So this is a requirement for all publicly listed companies. I think it should be a requirement for every company and every organization.
Thank you for that, Eric. We really appreciate as a customer of Shakey's and Peri Peri. Eric, some green initiatives.
Yes, so because of this crisis and because of the safety measures that we've implemented, which is UV, it has really forced us to change our plastics into paper. As you know, exposure of UV light into plastics may pose some harm. So we were forced, or we portioned it so to use paper more, which actually expedited. You know, before kung they were slowly trying to phase out plastic. Ngayon, again, it expedited our way. But again, as you mentioned, when it comes to delivery, we're actually now spending more on packaging because we're having to use recyclable, renewable type of products.
All right, Richie, some green initiatives. Wait, I have to unmute you. All right.
Okay. Yes, Carl. Yeah, it was really part of the, even prior to the quarantine, for us to go to all paper cups, Although I would admit we had some problems as far as delivery is concerned. We have to do a lot of changes. It was hit and miss for the items. But again, sooner or later, you'll see under the milking group, we'll be implementing more on the paper cups and all this stuff outside the plastic.
And I think the last two questions from me, and I think the second to the last question goes to you, Richie, because the question has something to do with MSME, because your operation is rather small compared with the two other brands. The value of cashless payments to your business, how important is this, and how did it make a difference?
Right now, it is a must with the current situation. More and more of the brands under us and the stores are going into these cashless payments because, of course, we want to be assured of the safety of the handling. In fact, I'll be sharing with you, we had like 2 incidents where in the stores we're still implementing the actual cash handling, and customers gets to the point of saying, do you have to hold the money and return the change to us? Can we have a cashless? So it is a priority right now, Carl.
All right. So you would suggest that every business should really go cashless now, not because
as much as possible.
money,
Yeah, as much as possible.
Seamless transaction.
Definitely.
Our partner Cheryl. Yeah. Before we get the signal to close the program, what do you have in mind, partner? You're very reflective. No, at nakikinig ka ng buong.
Yes, a very exhaustive Q&A. And actually, my takeaway, partner, is not just about redesigning the dining experience, no? And listening from Architect Palafox and all our panelists, it's really redesigning how we do our lifestyle, our day-to-day activities, redesigning the economy as a whole. Because for the sake of our MSME food entrepreneurs that are listening right now, and considering that all our panelists are big brands in the food sector, how much more and they're saying, ouch, already for the effects of the pandemic, how much more our small and medium food entrepreneurs, diba? Partners. And most especially the micro entrepreneurs. And I think in closing it's really unemployment will have a chain reaction. I hope that our government, through the policies, will be able to help us, enable our entrepreneurs, especially the MSME food entrepreneurs, to enable jumpstart the economy, partner.
Okay. Richie, your final words.
Dr. Carl, I would say at this time of the midst of all these uncertainties, there's so much opportunities. Honestly, in our case, we just found out a lot of resurgence within our own business that happened. So again, sabi nga nila sa Tagalog, kapit lang.
Kapit lang. All right, kapit lang. And that's from Richie Cuna, my compadre, a banker who turned Mamang Sorbitero through Pure Gelato. And I was one proud franchisee of Pure Gelato way back then. Eric, what's your final words for everybody, especially those who are in the restaurant business?
So first of all, I want to thank the PFA for organizing this and allowing us to share our insights with our fellow people in the industry. For us, it's accept that this is the new norm. We're now in this new world order. We will get through this. We have the virus that's here, but we will have to learn how to live with it. As mentioned, let's all plan for the worst, but hope for the best. Thank you.
All right, and survive the punches. All right, I won't forget that. Vic, your final shot, please.
This black swan is very disruptive. We now know that, but again, opportunities abound. I think we just have to focus on our guests and make sure we execute better than before, better than others, and better than expected. And we will come out of this and not just survive, but be in a strong position to grow in the future. So good luck to all of us, and thank you for inviting me.
Can you repeat the better than the others?
Wowing is determined 3 ways. The 3 pillars are, it has to be better than before, better than others, better than expected.
All right, beautiful indeed. And Architect Palafox, may pahabol pong tanong. You emphasize alfresco dining. Sabi ng isa nating participant, this is a very humid country. Do you really see that coming? Is that something that will
Yeah.
maybe
There are systems like yeah.
I think we just have to
You have
focus
like big growers with steam. I forget how to call it. And Singapore is humid also, hot and humid. They have so many alfresco dining in Singapore, and also in Las Vegas, especially in summer. Many European American cities, they have outdoor dining, even the hot summer months, even hotter than the Philippines. It can be done.
So the fear of transmission is higher than the suffering in a little humid outdoor environment. That's the point. And Architect, your final words, please, especially has something to do with your urban renaissance.
Yeah, I think it's, as I started in the beginning, there should be more enterprise looking at the new world order. It's not a new normal. And I think this conversation is very relevant because I think the sunrise industries is healthcare, food and agriculture, and digital, those three. And I think that's a challenge now. And we really have not just to address this crisis, the vaccine, but transform into the new world order.
Transform.
Thank you.
Transform. Actually, there are three things to change. That's evolution, which will take us forever. Revolution, which can be very bloody and the resistance will be very high. And the last one is transformation, which is from within, by choice and by chance, not by chance, but by choice. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today on behalf of the Philippine Franchise Association. And the privilege is mine to have moderated this for the 8th time already. And according to our executive producer, we will have probably a monthly thing come July. And I'm always excited. You know why? Because I take so much notes. And after this, I will sit by the corner, make some reflection and ask myself, what did I learn today that I can use for my business, not only to make it survive, but to make it grow and to make a difference. And I think I achieved that every ikapihan of the Philippine Franchise Association. Partner, thank you so much for here with me today.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Carl Balita. And it is a pleasure to moderate with you throughout the whole time since March 25.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And this is Dr. Carl Balita with my partner, the beautiful Miss Cheryl Quintana.
Yes, this is Cheryl Quintana from the Philippine Franchise Association.
Thank you, everyone. See you in the next ikapihan, the 9th of July. God bless. Stay safe.